morning, everyone. Welcome to this last day of SSP's 40th annual meeting. I'm very happy you could join us here this morning. We have our plenary is our preview session, our new and noteworthy product presentations. I do want to let you know that the hotel is having internet problems, so we are experiencing some technical difficulties. The hotel is working on it. What that means is we're challenged to be live streaming this right now for our virtual attendees, and we also want audience participation and voting on these presentations too, which requires that you've downloaded the app and that we have the Wi-Fi capabilities to actually vote at the end of this. So hopefully by the time we get through all the presentations, the Wi-Fi and internet and everything will be back up and working well. And if not, we'll improvise, so we'll figure it out. So bear with us on that respect. But otherwise, only other housekeeping announcement this morning is, again, if you're interested in being involved on a committee or a task force, join us for the Get Involved luncheon later today. Otherwise, hope you enjoy this preview session and the rest of the content today, and have a great day. I'd like to introduce David Myers, who is facilitating this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Good morning. So, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. Obviously, thank you, Jennifer, for those words. The one thing, and hopefully the internet will come up soon. As you all know, there's a great app that you should definitely have downloaded. And the reason you should have it downloaded is because you will have the opportunity to vote for the first winner of the preview session in SSP history. So please, when the internet is up, and hopefully we'll somehow make an announcement of that, don't rush all at the same time because then it'll probably slow it down, but download the app and you'll be part of history voting for the winner. So, welcome to this event. It's the seminal event of the 2018 SSP meeting, the 2018 preview session. We've been doing this for, I think, about 6 years. So every year it gets harder and harder to find, distinguishing, because there's so many great companies and great products and great technologies coming out. So this year we have 13 companies that we have selected to be part of the session. And thank you very much for coming in so early. I'm sure it'll be worth it to listen to all these great sessions. So, but this session, as we all know, is really about innovation and disruption. The most successful organizations no longer are the ones that offer the best deals. They're the ones that offer the best ideas, that do things that other organizations can't or won't do, and that's how organizations go from ordinary to extraordinary. In the past couple of years, a couple of comments have resonated about innovation and disruption, and the ones that kind of really resonate with me is, it's disruption at a torrid pace. Innovation is not a luxury. Creativity and innovative thinking is essential in today's environment. So consider these facts. 40% of the companies that are here today won't exist in 10 years. 52% of Fortune 500 companies in 2000 no longer exist. But when disruption hits, innovation takes too long, and that's what we call the innovation lag. And so it is imperative that if you are not the disruptor, you will be disrupted. If you are not distinct, you will be extinct. And I think we could all concur on that, right? And disruption can come in many forms, from technology to business models. So in an attempt to introduce to the SSP community these great technologies, content, and services, these 5-minute back-to-back sessions will give you an idea of the next wave of technology or content or services that you should be aware of. So there won't be any time for questions at the end, but of course, God willing, the internet will be back up, and we will all be able to vote I'm sure that the presenters will be around after this. We will have to leave the room because they're going to be changing it for the next session, but they will, I'm sure, make themselves available to have individual discussions for you. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our first presenter from the AAMC, DK. Oh, there you are.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us here today. Before I get started, I just wanted to quickly get an understanding of how many of you have submitted financial disclosures for any activity during the course of your career, whether it be a journal article, whether it's, okay, so some of you, not, okay. And how many of you have submitted multiple disclosures? Okay, a couple of you, a few of you, all right. So for those of you who have submitted multiple disclosures, you will remember one thing, which is it was probably very disjointed. You didn't have any continuity of your information from the first time that you submitted your disclosure. You had to keep track of that information elsewhere, and it was very onerous on the individual who's trying to submit this information, whether it be to a journal article, to a journal for a manuscript that they're submitting, or to a academic medical center, which is their home institution where they conduct their research. But nonetheless, the process is very onerous and very cumbersome for those individuals. So really quickly, brief history of why I'm here today. Back in 2009, the Institute of Medicine conducted multiple sessions, working groups, where they had this discussion around individuals who are submitting disclosures to multiple different organizations and have to keep track of this information in many, many different places. And of course, as human nature, we tend to forget what did we disclose the last time. So now when you disclose a new disclosure, there is that disjointment in the information that you are submitting to that organization. So the Institute of Medicine recommended that there be a system that sort of aligns this process and makes it much more streamlined so that individuals aren't having to depend on their memory. And I know I have a very bad memory, so I definitely have to keep track of this information in many, many different places. So they recommended that there be a system that sort of joins all these various different places. So for journals, for example, some journals are on paper format still, where you have to submit the ICMJE form in a paper format. You have to scan it in. Some organizations have electronic systems, but there's no way to pull out the information that you just submitted. So again, it sort of goes into a black hole, and you don't know what you submitted and whether you need to update any of that information or not. So that's essentially how Convey came into the picture. So what is Convey? Convey is a web-based repository that allows individuals to submit their financial interests to organizations that are requesting that information of them. And also it allows them to create a repository where they can maintain that information and have continuity of that historic information of what they've submitted. They can go back and look at previous disclosures and make that judgment call whether something needs to be updated for that organization that they have previously submitted to. And so for publishers and for journals and for many other types of organizations that have a need to collect disclosures, you're able to tailor each of those journals and each of those forms in Convey to collect only the information that is relevant to you. So why is Convey the repository or the central place where you can collect all the information? What the team did back when the IOM recommended this solution, we brought together all the industry leaders from various different organizations, whether it be government agencies, academic medical centers, journals, publishers, conflict of interest management vendors, all different types of systems that are out in the market, and looked at every single form that is currently in use and ensured that we take into account all the fields that are currently being collected on all the various different forms and capture those within Convey. So how does it work? So the first time a disclosure, an individual comes in to submit a disclosure, you create your account, that's your repository. You find your organization, whether it's a journal that's requesting this or your home institution where you conduct your research. You review that organization's policies and their requirements, and you go ahead and enter in your financial interests that you need to submit to this organization. Now, while you're creating that disclosure to that organization, the system is actually creating a repository for you in the background. And you go ahead and review, certify, submit. The true benefit comes in when you come in for that second disclosure. And this is where you just need to see if there's any new requirements and if there's any new interest that you have acquired since the last time that you disclosed, and you add that additional information. And again, the system captures that new information as part of the repository, so it will be there the next time you come in to disclose to another organization. This is valuable because it starts creating consistency between disclosures that are being submitted from one organization to another, especially within the journal community when authors are submitting articles to multiple different places and not being consistent with their financial disclosures between those different journals. So here's just a quick snapshot of the different types of fields that are being collected through Convey. And where are we today? We do have multiple users. What I ask you to do, I know the internet is being a little shaky right now. You can definitely get off of the internet and just use your mobile data, and go ahead and send us an email at convey@aamc.org, and please schedule a demo.
Our next presenter from Attapan, Nikos, and I had to get my coffee, so that's why I'm up.
No longer. Okay, hi. Today only 10,000 new publications are out there. So in this context, email alerts are no longer the right way to promote your content to the right audience. It is not the right way to help researchers discover the content that matters to them and engage with it. Citrus uses artificial intelligence to personalize content. It uses artificial intelligence to help researchers discover the content that matters to them. It is Attapan solutions to the researchers' content discovery problem in a world where content is abundant and time is scarce. It is the solution to your content targeting needs. It uses AI to produce for every researcher a live content stream or relevant material, be it papers, news, conferences, and more. It is not an email alert service. It is a beautiful and easy-to-use application that can help researchers stay on top of developments in their field of expertise. All the researcher has to do is either transfer existing alert services, settings, or create new ones by following his favorite authors, topics, and journals. We call them channels. And for each one of these channels, we go and we aggregate daily all relevant content like publications, citations, authors, conferences, social mentions, and more, whatever is available and accessible out there. And then our own AI algorithms kick in to evaluate each one of these items individually according to the specific personal interests of each researcher. The result of this evaluation process is a relevance score. And we use this relevance score to identify the most relevant content and to present this content to the user in the most appropriate way. So here it is. Citrus and the user's personal feed. It scrolls. So it starts with today's peak, and then you get the top 3 suggestions for the users. Full-page ads can follow and be exposed to the user in a natural way. You get notifications, but the bulk of the feed is relevant publications and news ordered chronologically, but we present the most relevant articles large and the least relevant articles small. So we show more of what is relevant and less of what is not. And within these articles, in between these content sections, we have relevant material like conferences, citation alerts, it can be relevant researchers, and whatever else can be of interest to the user. Hundreds of layouts and a series of intelligence algorithms are combined to produce the result, to present the material in the most readable and beautiful way. So now you can put your content in front of the readers that matter, of the right audience, so that you can target it accurately for better exposure and for more engagement, and you can increase your traffic by promoting your content and targeting audience beyond your members. Of course, we keep all the necessary usage data for you. All you have to do is share Citrus with your members by adding a link to your email alerts or your alerts page, and by adding an image to your article so they appear nice. Citrus is available to all publishers. Please feel free to come and find me for a live demo. We are launching soon, so stay tuned. Thank you.
Our next presenter from the CCC is Chet Hemingway.
Good to see everyone, old friends and new. I'd like to thank the committee for a chance to speak and their daring for giving me a microphone. I'd like to talk a little bit about a new initiative we have that is designed to connect and align the stakeholders in the APC payment marketplace. That's a mouthful, but what it does is talk about a new functionality that we're bringing that will bring the stakeholders together in a very meaningful way. So as a matter of introduction, if you don't know who CCC is, see me after class. The explanation is too long. But our primary purpose is to serve as publishers and service the other stakeholders in the publishing market. And I've been with the company for forever. So the first thing to help a drowning man is to describe the water. So for publishers in the room, this slide is not a surprise. What is going on in the market? You're being besieged with very complex agreement structures. You have consortia, you have institutions, funders, nations, and states that want to have special pricing, special billing, special everything for their authors. And I think we are all in agreement that that's important and critical for you as a publisher to service those important stakeholders. You have to be able to come to the table with them and negotiate and have meaningful agreements. But it's very complicated. And the news is full of these agreements. Everybody's making them. It's all very groovy, right? Until we start to try to bill each other and collect money and do the business exchanges. And it's falling apart there a bit. Let's say it's never actually been put together. So our goal in setting out on this journey was to create a platform for publishers to welcome those other stakeholders in. So a platform that's shared between publishers, institutions, and funders And it's a 4-year journey. We've logged hundreds and hundreds of hours of research, maybe thousands. You've all been victimized by us in that way, so we thank you for giving your feedback. But to give you some sense of this new tool, it's called Agreement Manager, and roughly how it works. If you follow me in a clockwise journey, a publisher will set up a special billing profile to accommodate their special agreement with a party in the market. And when an article is accepted for publication, the agreement manager sends out the necessary notifications to the parties involved and invites the author into a payment process. And from there, the author can be invited to apply for funding. So in some cases, there needs to be a round trip to the partner, to the institution or funder, to validate that author's availability to funding. So we initiate that process. The funder then has an opportunity to approve or deny that request and, again, drive out the necessary notifications. An important distinction for that is that it is across publisher. The funder and institution are seeing this across hundreds of publishers, we hope, at some point. From there, notifications, again, go out about approvals or denials. Billing is initiated, monies are collected, and then everybody has access to very, very rich reporting. So we feel that this is revolutionary because it's bringing the stakeholders eyeball to eyeball. We hope over time shoulder to shoulder in a space where they can collaborate around the financials. So in summary, this is important because it's going to bring efficiency for everybody involved. It's going to align their needs around the payment and financials part of open access publishing. It's going to speed up notification, approval. It's going to improve reporting, all within the framework of your special agreements, all within the framework that you've created between the consortia, the institution, or the funder. And at the end of the day, it's going to bring much needed efficiency and transparency for all parties. And ultimately, we believe it's going to bring a much higher level of author satisfaction, because to the degree that these things can be automated, it's less burden on them to come to the table with VAT identifiers and all of those sorts of things that just tend to get in their way. So if you'd like to learn more, see me after class or any of my colleagues at the booth, and thanks for your time.
Our next presenter, Ann Michael from Delta Think.
Okay, hi. I'm here to talk to you today about the Delta Think Open Access Data and Analytics Tool. Delta Think has been a consultancy for many years, and over the last few years, we've noticed a lot of commonality in the questions that folks, publishers, and other players in the market have around open access. Unfortunately, although the questions had commonality, the mechanisms available, the data sources available to answer those questions were quite disparate. Many good sources, but not necessarily possible to use them together. And one of the things we've also realized, and honestly, from our mission perspective, are trying to accelerate, is that publishers have a desire to use data in making decisions and informing the decisions they make. So we decided that we would build a one-stop shop. We would take the publicly available resources, we would collate, normalize, and crosswalk them. We would capture additional data, notably private data, based on our position as a neutral third party, from publishers and other organizations that we don't publish, but we use to calibrate our data, calibrate our models to ensure that our revenue and things that we're showing within the tool are accurate. And we would do this across a range of topics, provide a layer of analysis, and keep it all updated. And what resulted was the Delta Think Open Access Data and Analytics tool, which, aside from having a range of topics, really addresses the varying needs that users have in dealing with data. Some people have staff and they have capabilities, and they're able to download our data, take it, and use it in their own proprietary environments. Other folks are somewhat less comfortable, and for those folks, we have two options. They can read the analysis that we've done, looking at the tools and visualizations that we've created, or they can manipulate the interactive visualizations and start to hone in on their own questions. So what kinds of questions? So very quickly, to walk through one example, suppose you want to understand how your pricing relates to the market and to your specialty area in particular. Here's a broad scale. You could say, well, am I cheap or am I expensive? What are other publishers charging for fully open access or hybrid open access APCs? You might want to go a little bit deeper. You might want to say, well, that's all well and good, but what are the common price points? And when you look at fully open access and hybrid together, you notice, wow, there seems to be a concentration around that $3,000 to $3,500 mark, with another concentration slightly lower, $500 lower than that. But what if you're saying, well, I really just want to look at fully open access? Well, you can see that the picture changes substantially when you hone in on fully open access APCs. Notice that the pricing skews a little bit farther towards the lower side of the spectrum, with the peak now occurring at $2,000 to $2,500 and another peak showing up at $500 to $1,000. But what influences pricing? Is impact a factor, no pun intended, in influencing how journals are priced? Well, looking at this broad view of the market, one could argue that there are actually quite low impact journals. Here we're using source normalized impact per paper, or SNP, as a proxy for journal impact factor. And you can see that there are significantly priced journals that are occurring at the lowest rate. You can at the lowest impact factor, or SNP. You can also see that there seems to be a definite, you can definitely see that the green hybrid is skewing higher than the lower fully open access. Well, suppose you're saying, well, I'm in the social sciences. What does it look like for me? You can hone in on the social sciences. We also have 316 different subspecialty areas, more than 11,000 pricing data points, all put together, that you can dice and slice. You can dice and slice on geographies. And just to kind of bring it back around, the whole point of this is helping people to make data-informed decisions, helping them to set their strategies, evaluate their strategies, or just increase the knowledge they have of the market, but based on data. And just lest you think that APCs is the only thing that's included in the tool, we have lots of different topics, and on all of those we have done analysis. We also publish monthly a free newsletter, which you can get here. Actually, the next one comes out on Monday. It's the first Monday of every month, where we do analysis, sometimes often pulling from data that we have within our tool, but sometimes pulling from other market data. And we would love for you to sign up, and we would love to send it to you. Thanks.
Our next presenter from Digital Science, Catherine Hall.
Whoop, wrong way. All right, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well on this fine Friday. So I am here today to talk with you about dimensions, and as David said, my name is Kathy Holland, and I am a business development manager at Digital Science. And hopefully everybody in this room has heard a little bit about dimensions. It was launched in January of this year to great fanfare. Outsell actually called it a game-changing initiative. And let's start off with why dimensions? I think that's kind of a big question in everybody's mind. And, really, I think all of us know that there are challenges within the research ecosystem. You have, all types of data that's really siloed. It's sometimes hard to see kind of the full picture of impact. And there's blind spots which slow down innovation. And this all equals time wasted. And so enter kind of linked data, which creates fewer barriers to innovation. And if you think about, like we do, kind of who Dimensions was built for, it was really built for everyone. The idea behind it was to make it easier for researchers to access the data, but also for publishers and institutions to use this information to kind of make informed business decisions about their topical areas of interest. And this is kind of just a good snapshot of the linkages. I'll let you kind of take a look at that for a second. I think that gives a much better picture of it that I could describe to you. And in terms of kind of metrics behind the system, you can clearly see we have a huge amount of research content, in dimensions. And I think the big thing for me is the linkages. We have 4 billion plus links between all of these document types. And when I think about this and what it can do, I really feel it tells the full research story. That's at least the way I think about it, and so hopefully you can think about it in that way too. And the other way to think about it, because I often come across this question in my own head of what is dimensions? And I struggled, for a little bit to think of a really solid way to put it. And I don't know if, many of you in the audience are familiar with one of those kind of multi-tool things. I know my husband's got one at home. And and that's kind of what this is. It's multifaceted. And so researchers can get kind of information that they need. You can explore open citation data. As I mentioned earlier, you can really follow the research story from idea at the grant level all the way to the impact when you've got, patents and policy documents at the other end. And due to this, you can kind of draw intelligent comparisons because you've got access to so many different angles of data. Now, if you are a publisher, what does this mean for you? And I think there are kind of 3 things, at least in this presentation, that I want to touch on and highlight. And so the first is you've got the full picture. Because you've got the research story, you can really kind of support business intelligence and think about where you want to go strategically with your organization. The second is you can find a lot of experts. Since there's so much kind of data and information, there's researcher information in there, there's everything. So you can find reviewers, you can find kind of rising stars if you want someone to come talk at a conference, for example. Or if you're a society, you could even potentially find members kind of using this tool. And the third kind of facet that I want to touch on is really being able to track impact, where you've got, like I said, that full picture at the other end, where it's not just citation information. You have patents, you have citations, you have policy references, and also, altmetrics. And this idea is, to explain that we're really just getting started on this journey. And, we really consider this to be kind of a community-driven initiative. And with that, I wanted to say thank you for listening. I realized this was kind of short and to the point, but that's also good. Definitely come and talk to us because that is something we're very interested. We're very interested in talking with everyone within the community. You can visit us at dimensions.ai. And we are also hosting a publisher-focused webinar next week on the 7th of June if you're interested in registering. So please do. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Our next presenter is Koji Yamashita from Edance Group.
So first of all, it's great to be at the SSP. It's first time we are here at the SSP. I'd just like to ask, how many of you know Edance? Wow, that's quite more than I thought. How important Asia is for you in this audience? Not many as I thought. Okay, so what I'm going to present is giving you a kind of channel to the Asia. So Edance is the author service and marketing company out of Asia. Oops. So we've been in the market more than 20 years. We started in Japan back in 1995 by the lawyer from New Zealand. And he found the need to support authors in this that part of the world. And then we grew last 20 years. And we are the first company entered into China back in 2006, and we have a 100% subsidiary operating there. And we are, in Japan and China, we are one of the most biggest service provider in the author service and marketing there. We also have a kind of a good track record of innovating services. We started doing the author workshop, which is fairly common these days. Especially in Asia, we have to really educate authors in terms of how to write, but also ethics and so forth, especially in China. So we've done author workshops in over 23 different countries, over 500 times, mostly in China and Japan. And 2011, we launched the free service called the Journal Selector, which have the most traffic. We have something like 30,000 unique traffic every month. And most recently, which I'm going to briefly explain, is the Author Pass, which is the free crowd-based guided writing platform. So author has to go through various stages, and then so we've been sort of educating authors mostly in Asia, manually. And we have all these experiences. We're putting all these experience and knowledge into the platform because authors' behavior and their mentality is very different from those from the Western world. So we try to help them. How can we help? So that's how we started. And these are the study done by Dr. Donald King in Ethiopia that authors from Asia or non-English speaking country takes twice as many hours as the native English people. So that means there's so much handicap that they have. But if you think, all the authors, you see the flood of manuscript coming from emerging market. If you can shorten their time, double, that their productivity goes up so much, and then we can save so much funding money as well. And then at the end of the day, you as a publishers get more submissions, hopefully. So that's the ultimate goal. So we put all the knowledge and experience we have in 20 years into this platform. So we're combining education pieces, everything from how to write to ethics, and then to writing platforms so they can collaborate and writing it, and then hopefully to submit to the authors, submit to the publishers. So we made the arrangement with the Aries editorial managers. So, and we started working with partnering some of the publishers. So if you're interested in working with us, if you're interested in getting more submission from Asia, then this is really the early beta launch. And we just made the Chinese version, the English version last year. And this month, we just launched the Japanese version. And we're not really making big launch. And we kind of start slow and getting more kind of feedback from the authors. And we try to build the publishing partner so that we can start sending the submission to the partner as well. So that's us, the eLearn and Author Pass. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Our next presenters, tag team from eLife and Hypothesis.
Thank you. I'm Heather Staines from Hypothesis, and this is Nathan Lisko from eLife, and we want to tell you today about, is that the wrong way? eLife and Hypothesis, group annotation layers for publishers. So if you haven't heard of Hypothesis, we are a mission-driven nonprofit. We believe as a nonprofit, it's really important to maintain an independent voice in the space. We cannot be acquired by your competition. We are supported by partners, not beholden to shareholders. We believe in open standards. You can visit our website today to get a free account that you can annotate anywhere on the web, PDF, HTML, EPUB, data, and we'd love to hear how you find it. As of last week, we are at 3.2 million annotations and counting. About 20% of those are completely public. That's 640,000 public annotations, and 1.6 million annotations made in collaboration groups. It's a very powerful tool. The public annotations are sent to Crossref event data for indexing within Google. We're going to tell you today about publisher groups. Nathan's going to talk a little bit about the open groups. I'm going to show you a couple of examples from restricted groups. So as a publisher, you can be in control of what type of group or multiple groups you launch across your content. All of these are branded and moderated. You receive full analytics on what happens on your content. We can even connect into your publisher accounts. We work with all of the major platform hosts. Many of them are here at this meeting. Here's a couple of examples. This group was announced just this week with the American Diabetes Association. They had a very specific use case. Every January, they publish an update to the medical standards of care for diabetes. Because it's medical information, they have to make sure it's accurate. So the world can read it, but only ADA can make annotations into this group. Other uses for a restricted group might be authors or invited experts. We'll be launching soon with Johns Hopkins University Press and University of Michigan Press. Just one more example. This is a collaboration between Cambridge University Press and the Qualitative Data Repository at Syracuse University. They're using annotation technology to connect citations back to its data. This is a really exciting project. There are other publishers included, and they'll be launching as part of this group shortly.
Hi, at eLife we seek to encourage and recognize the most responsible behaviors in science. More publishers are starting to view discussions attached to the publications via commenting and annotation systems as a complement to the article's version of record. They want to feel confident that they can apply their own editorial standards to these annotations. Publisher groups are available now. It's a new feature of the Hypothesis open source application. Publishers now have the ability to have greater control over the function and appearance of the Hypothesis annotation client embedded in their site or platform. The client can now be configured to use a clean, customized user interface to integrate more seamlessly with publisher sites and to act in different ways to support publisher needs and preferences. Extensive user testing was carried out to give the best experience possible. Our aim was to streamline the annotation experience, removing interface distractions, and to offer better support for first-time users. Hypothesis has implemented a more flexible and secure authentication system based on the widely used OAuth standard. This enables us to integrate with a much wider variety of identity solutions. eLife users authenticate with their eLife user account instead of requiring a separate login to Hypothesis. Integrating publisher groups with the eLife platform allows our authors and readers to interact in new ways. It also exposes new metrics on which part of an article is most interesting to readers. Authors can provide a bit more detail and discuss related works, link to article preprints, highlight consistent results, and invite readers to engage more with their published research. We also envisage Hypothesis being adopted in various other ways in future, including as a platform for journal clubs to discuss recent discoveries. At eLife, we invest heavily in software development, new product design, and collaboration to help realize the potential for improvements in the digital communication of research, and we're always on the lookout for new projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter, Alex Humphreys from JSTOR.
Hi. Excuse me, I'm Alex from JSTOR. I'm going to tell you about Text Analyzer. I've got 30 slides in 5 minutes, so that's going to work out great. JSTOR Labs, and for those of you who aren't familiar with it, we create experimental tools for research and teaching, and I'm going to show you about one of them called Text Analyzer, and to do that, I'm going to tell you about these fine people. This is Amy and Amir. Amy is a teacher, and Amir is a student. Today they're sad. That's the frowny. Amy, and it's because of research. Amy is trying to do a literature review, and she's not sure she's not sure if she can find everything, because how do you know what you're not seeing? Amir, meanwhile, is a student, and he doesn't know what terms to use when he's doing research. He knows what he's interested in, but when he types in those words, he's getting back a bunch of stuff he doesn't know anything about. Well, Amy and Amir, we have Text Analyzer, and it's for you. The fade is like a nerd version of that moment in Wizard of Oz. Text Analyzer is a new way of searching, and you search using an entire document, whether it's your own document or a document that you've found. You upload it, and the Text Analyzer reads it, figures out what it's about, and then finds relevant articles in JSTOR that are about similar topics. It then encourages users to interact with those results as a corpus in and of themselves by fiddling with the little equalizer buttons in the left, adding new terms, filtering it. You can slice and dice and semantically analyze articles about coleslaw. You'll remember Amy and Amir were sad before, but now they're happy. That's how well it works. Amy found articles in a different discipline, but were relevant, so peer review, yay. And Amir found terms that he could use not just in JSTOR, but in other databases, which work just fine as well. So let me tell you a little bit quickly in how it works. It's natural language processing, and I'm not going to get too deep into this, but basically it uses topic modeling. The way that happens is, when you're listening to somebody, you can pick up what they're talking about by the words they're using, even though they don't use the actual word. Natural language processing, topic modeling does the same thing, but with mathematical exactitude, and applied to an entire corpus of content, which we've done on JSTOR, and of course every content that gets uploaded. There's more. So since we launched that about a year ago, we've added a few services on top of it, which are useful and maybe useful even to you. So it's not just available for people who want it transactionally for a single document. There is now an API for, say, publishers who have an entire journal that they want to categorize algorithmically. This is available for beta partners, and if you're interested, come see me. Amy likes it. I forgot to mention this earlier, but Amir is a native German speaker. And so now Text Analyzer speaks 15 different languages. It allows, when you upload a document in any of those languages, it figures out in its native language what it's about, translates those terms into English, and then finds relevant English language content in JSTOR, helping to Koji's researchers minimize those 150 hours. Amir thinks that's pretty cool. Danke.
Our next presenter from Kudos, Charlie Rappel.
Follow that, thanks. He said, we're going to go in order of the names of your companies. I'm like, I'm changing the name of my company, so I never have to follow JSTOR again. I am Charlie Rappel. I'm one of the founders of Kudos, or Kudos as we call it in English. And over the last 5 years, we've been developing a platform for managing the dissemination of research to help authors and publishers and societies to take a more strategic approach to increasing the reach and impact of publications. And what we do is we encourage researchers to share work more actively, but crucially, we focus on copyright compliant ways to do this and on centrally tracking what they do so that publishers can better support and learn from and benefit from the ways that researchers share. And there was a study published in PLOS ONE last year that showed that articles for which Kudos have been used have 23% higher growth in downloads than articles for which Kudos has not been used. So today I am previewing the pilot results of our new shareable PDF solution. This was born out of a 2017 survey that showed 57% of authors upload full-text copies of their work to scholarly collaboration networks like ResearchGate and academia.edu, and 66% of researchers access copies of full text this way. And of course, those sites like ResearchGate and so on are not the only ways that researchers are sharing copies of their full text. They email them to each other, they post them to websites and repositories and so on. And with the rise of services like the Open Access button and Copernio, now with Clarivate, those services that automatically find a free copy of anything for which you've hit a paywall as a reader. So those author copies of full text are becoming increasingly discoverable and thus are increasingly cannibalizing publisher usage statistics. So many publishers are looking to linking technologies to save the day here, but you can't post a link by itself into a PDF-based sharing system that will only allow an author to add something to their profile if they upload it as a PDF. So author e-prints and read-only links are awesome, but they are solving a different problem than the sharing of full-text copies. Our answer to this is, well, if there are sites that require people to upload a PDF and those sites are very popular with authors, let's give them a PDF to put in those sites, but let's make it one that links through to the full text and builds the usage on the publisher website rather than cannibalizing it. So this is what we've been developing over the last year or so at Kudos. We've been piloting a new approach to online sharing that encourages authors to share a summary PDF, so not the full text version, but a summary version which links through to the full text on the journal website rather than sharing a copy of the full text itself. And we launched this at the end of last year for 5 publishers. Participation has already grown to 15 publishers, some of whom are in the room. Thank you, Wiley, Taylor and Francis, MIT Press, FASEB, and all those who I can't remember off the top of my head. And the shareable PDFs contain this kind of added value, plain language summary of what is this research about and why is it important, which obviously has many benefits in terms of helping the discovery process for readers, helping a broader audience find this work, understand this work. And then crucially, they have these trackable read publication links that go back to the full text on the publisher's site. And of course, that can then be integrated with those awesome read-only links or e-print links that I was talking about earlier. What we're doing is providing a kind of PDF container so that those kinds of linking solutions can then work with a PDF-based site like ResearchGate or whatever. So we're helping you to maximize the usage of full text and protect subscription revenue by leveraging these very popular PDF-based sites that authors use excessively, that readers use excessively, treating those as discovery channels rather than trying to penalize or prevent sharing in those channels, and actually reclaiming traffic from those channels and bringing it back to your website. We launched this, as I said, end of last year, very popular with authors. For those publishers for whom this has been switched on, 61% of authors who are sharing via Kudos are choosing the PDF option. And what that has done to our sharing statistics is incredible in terms of the social media side of things, where that's your kind of link-based sharing, is now representing only 9% of the sharing options, which of course reflects what we know as publishers about the ways that authors choose to share. They are not massive users of social media across the board, but they are big users of PDF-based sharing. And so for the publishers for whom this has been switched on, they're now seeing twice as many authors doing sharing of their work, twice as many publications being shared in ways that benefit the publisher. So this is a huge increase in the visibility of these publications now that we are integrating the PDF-based sharing option into how authors can share publishers' content. And the trackable links enable counting of what happens when people share a PDF into a PDF-based sharing site. So you can also then compare that to other ways that people share. So this is just a snapshot from one author. 25 people clicked on the PDF link version that he shared versus 42 from Facebook to a link, 9 from email, and so on. So it just enables you to start making more strategic decisions about where you enable sharing or what you encourage authors to do. And we're seeing a 27% click-through rate on those links, those PDF versions that authors are sharing. It's really easy for us to switch this on for anybody in the room who wants to start trying to pull back traffic from PDF-based sharing sites. We're very much part of the publishing ecosystem. We are integrated with many systems both before and after publication, and it is so straightforward for us to switch this on. It requires nothing on your part, essentially, for that to start happening. So we can help you move quickly to transition authors to a copyright-compliant approach to sharing, help you protect your relationships with authors by doing this simply and proactively. And that's my email address if you want to get in touch.
Thank you, Charlie. Our next presenter from Paper Hive, Dr. Andre Gall.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. So today I'm going to talk to you a bit about a new development at Paper Hive and how we're lifting the curtain with in-document metrics on PDFs after they have been downloaded. And so the problem with PDFs is that the metrics are usually based on the number of downloads or citations, and this means that a lot of questions remain unanswered. For example, you don't know, are users actually reading a paper they have downloaded? What information from a publication actually gets shared? Or, for example, which concepts are particularly interesting or hard to understand in a publication? So we're about to answer all these questions, and a lot of people can benefit from that data. For example, editorial teams can be helped for acquiring new authors or planning new content. Marketing teams, we help them to promote content. We tell them basically which content should be promoted and where and how. Also, journal management teams benefit from our data because they can see what publications are actually interesting for their readers. So I don't have too much time to explain Paper Hive in detail, so I just give the short 1-minute version here. So the question, of course, is how is this data generated now on Paper Hive? How do we get these metrics? And the answer is that the data is just generated by the users who are using Paper Hive as it is. So the user journey for Paper Hive usually starts on the publisher website. There's this Paper Hive widget that says read and discuss on Paper Hive. Once you click that, you're taken to the Paper Hive reading environment, and the document immediately loads. You can start reading, and you directly benefit from discussions that are happening right in the margin. And if you want, you can, of course, also interact with other people. You can join the discussions and so on. So it's important to say here that we're not hosting the content, so these PDFs are still on publisher websites and are pulled dynamically from there. So all the discussion is always happening on the version of record. And I want to give you a couple of examples of what kind of data or what kind of metrics we can generate from here. So first of all, of course, discussion activity. This is what people are doing on Paper Hive. They discuss. And this can help you to plan new content and identify new authors and reviewers. For example, here is a book published by Springer Nature where a mathematical concept a complex concept is explained, and a lot of students are struggling with it. So you can see a lot of questions in this part of the document here. So you might want to improve that for the next version of this book. Another metric that we can offer is the completion rate, so how much of a book or a paper has actually been read. Also, kind of what are the hot paragraphs in a document, what is actually being read. This might help some teams to identify publications that can benefit from additional promotional activity. So you can, for example, answer questions like, is this publication read beyond the abstract? Or what chapters are particularly interesting? The last metric I want to present here is the number of views and the recurring behavior. So a common problem with PDFs is that you, as a publisher, usually only get the first data point here on the left. So that's the initial download. So afterwards, you don't really know what's happening. And on Paper Hive, we're basically uncovering the entire life of the PDF after it has been downloaded. So you can still see that users are coming back to it and use it, and all this data has not been available before. So this might help you to justify ongoing or secure new library subscriptions, or on the other hand, make informed decisions about subscriptions. So we're offering all this data in a dashboard, and we're running an active pilot right now, where we established an industry consultation. Publishers like Springer Nature, Sage, Cambridge University Press, Taylor & Francis are already on board, and I would like to offer to you to also join this group. So especially, of course, US publishers from here, but also if you're from Europe or anywhere else, feel free to talk to me after the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next presenter from Quark Intelligent Systems, Inc., Sanjeev Kumar.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Good morning, everybody. I would like to talk about some ways of creating new revenue streams for publishers in the age of open access using some very recent advances in AI. Now, professional practitioners such as psychiatrists, radiologists, physicians, civil engineers, etc., they are essentially frozen in time. What I mean by that is they are essentially in a time capsule from the time they graduated from the med school, engineering school, or wherever, because they do not have time to keep themselves updated with the latest research in their field. So that's one part of the story. Now, we see more and more content getting open access. So consider for a moment what happens when most of the research publication is open access. Well, researchers, PhD students, professors will continue to read the papers as they do today. However, practitioners don't read them today, and they will not read them tomorrow either. So if you put them together, what you see is an opportunity for new revenue streams, which is essentially immune to open access and is future-proof. Not only that, this new revenue stream will increase the impact of your content on society because it will make the latest research available to practitioners at the point of service. So why don't we do that today? Well, the biggest problem is keyword search, because search gives you a whole bunch of documents, articles, and practitioners don't have time to read any of those. What practitioners need is answers to the various questions: who, why, how, where, not list of articles. Now imagine for a moment if Alexa and Siri could answer questions based on your content. Now I want to do a live demo, which is not possible for this session, so I did some screen recordings. Now I Googled for and found open access peer-reviewed article. I chose anesthesia and asked one of my anesthesiologist friends to ask some questions on this document. So first thing he did was to use the search box on the article page, the journal page, to ask his question. And here's the question he asked. Oops. Sorry. Yeah. So this is a question. So this is a question, and in the result, he gets a typical a list of articles. In fact, they got a long list of articles, and the one which was is actually very low in that list. Now, he tried to ask the same question using a system which indexed that particular article along with a whole bunch of other articles. The same question, now what did he get here? What he gets here is actual answer. And when you expand on it, it even tells you the context from where the system got the answer, and links back to the article from where the answer came. Now, this system powers not only search boxes, but also chatbots. So same question asked on a chatbot, gives the same answer in the same context. Now, this was a what kind of a question. Next, he asked a why question. And why is this drug does whatever it does? And the system found a reason for it. And then it also, if you expand on it, it also tells the reason, why it thinks that's the reason. Finally, he asked a yes/no kind of a question. And is this reduction statistically significant? What the question is, and he got the answer, and also how the system arrived at the answer. And compared that to what you get today. So the question is, why now? Well, why couldn't we do it earlier? Automated question answering systems have surpassed human performance for the first time in history in January of this year. Any legacy system implemented before that just does not work well. In fact, some of you in the audience probably have experience with IBM Watson, and you relate to it if I say that Watson has a huge legacy problem. And so what do you need to make this happen? Well, a few things. One is you have to identify your customer groups. For example, are you targeting civil engineers or civil engineering firms? Then what kind of applications you want to build? Like point of service applications, compliance applications, verification, whatnot. And these applications are essentially faceplates on top of the same underlying question answering technology over your content. Then you want to experiment with business models. Do you want to charge for each answer? Do you want a subscription model? Do you want answers as a way to sell bundle content? Finally, practitioners don't want to have to go to 10 different places to find answers. They want to go to one place and get the answer. So it will help if you were to collaborate with the fellow publishers in similar domains and come up with a rev share model. So I hope you'll agree that what we have discussed gives a way for publishers to thrive in the age of open access. Here's my contact. Please feel free to reach out to me by email, SMS, or even the conference app. And I'll be here around today to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter from Psi AI, Roman Gurnovich.
Oh, I will try to use another mic. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it works. Hi all, I'm Roman from Psi AI, and let me start from example. Oh, actually, I forgot to use this thing. Yeah, it is a nice example. No, sorry. Yeah. So we are working on the project of investigating the relationship between GPR proteins and Alzheimer's disease. And our machine reasoner was able to discover particular detailed biological process out of thousands of papers. So publishers, you're sitting on a gold mine. And at the same time, no paper was found with the means of convenient PubMed or Science Direct search. And the situation is even complicated with the variability and ambiguity of terminology. And only God knows which inflections are hidden in the oceans of literature. So facts are actually hidden from readers, then discoveries, and of course citations. So our results show that actually knowledge is here. We just need to uncover it from this golden mine. And in the age when we use machines to discover publications, to do actual work, whether a publication will be part of the future research and funding depends on its machine readiness. As part of our research of biological processes, we convert unstructured papers into structured versions. So we'll label every protein, chemical element, tissue, organism, and relationships between them. Results can be serialized in JATS, HTML, and RDF formats, which are compatible with Web Consortium and JATS or NISO standards. And it's very easy to start using it. Just ask your electronic publishing platform for API access and have fun and enjoy the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our final presenter this morning is from the MIT Press. So it's the T, that should figure it out. Catherine Aaron, please. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Catherine Ahern. I'm the PubPub Community Manager at the MIT Press. Sorry, there we go. And in the next 5 minutes, I hope to talk to you a little bit about what PubPub is, how it came about, and how we've been developing it. So put very briefly, PubPub is an open access publishing platform that's working to socialize the process of knowledge creation. It started in 2015 as a project in the viral communications group at the MIT Media Lab, when two researchers there kind of looked around and realized that everyone around them wasn't conducting their research in ways that fit neatly into traditional scholarly publishing structures. Instead, they were really working across groups in a way that was much more open-ended, collaborative, and nonlinear. So in reaction to this, PubPub aimed to help research groups within the lab to publish their work in a manner that better reflected and actually integrated into the way that they were working. And of course, MIT Media Lab researchers aren't the only people who work like this, right? And they're not the only people who would find this helpful. And particularly as the MIT Press became more and more involved in developing PubPub and more interested in using it for its own OA journals and books, two questions started directing our development of the platform, and they're here on this slide. One, how can publishers promote the increasingly open and collaborative nature of research? And two, how can they help to make published works accessible worldwide in a way that stimulates important cross-disciplinary and real-time discussion? And the functionalities we've been working on thus far really reflect these priorities in these four ways. One, by prioritizing open access. Everything on PubPub is published under a CC BY license, and all of our code is really well documented and openly accessible. The second is community conversation and iteration as it pertains to the development of new ideas. The third is the integration of different kinds of media toward the more effective communication of these ideas when it calls for it. And the final one is the acknowledgement of all contributors. So from the people who help you brainstorm, to the people who give you that valuable feedback, to those who copy edit your final work. Okay, so what do these principles actually look like in practice? Let me see if I can play this. So we don't have all of the answers yet. We're still working on that, but so far PubPub has 62 independent communities. Some admittedly are more active than others. And the two I'll be focusing on today are MIT Press related communities, one called Frankenbook and one called the Journal of Design and Science, or JODS. In 2017, the MIT Press published an annotated edition of Frankenstein, and in 2018, we put it on PubPub and called it Frankenbook. And there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in Frankenbook. I won't get into all of that today, but one thing I do want to focus on is the multimedia annotations that we've added. I think my favorite example is actually a video game that two annotators developed on their own and included in Frankenbook in reaction to a passage from Mary Shelley's novel, which I thought was awesome. As of today, it has almost 40,000 visitors. It's led to over 400 new PubPub accounts, and we've received over 100 comments and discussions from our community of readers. Moving on to JODS, the Journal of Design and Science, we published the third issue in February on the topic of resisting reduction. And we received so much great community engagement and commenting that we wanted to seize on that excitement and energy somehow. So we issued a call for essays in an essay competition on the topic of resisting reduction. And we received over 260 submissions from people all over the world in all different kinds of industries, not just scholars. And we're still working on figuring out who the top 10 winners are. They'll be announced in July. But those winners will receive a prize money in support of OA publishing. They'll be published in JODS, and they'll also be published in a print peer review volume by the MIT Press. So I think that these two are good examples of how print and digital publications can really bolster one another, and how we can use open access tech to expand and explore what we really mean by open while pushing ourselves toward more experimentation. And that's all stuff we'd really like to see more of and support on PubPub. And I think I have to end it there. Here are the URLs in case you're interested in checking these out. And as you can imagine, there's a lot I haven't touched on and mentioned, so please come find me, email me here. I'd love to talk to you if you have questions, ideas, want to start your own community, and so on. So thank you very much.
All right. How was that? That was great, wasn't it? Another round of applause for all our presenters.